All right. Back in the Box Productions is back with the Bernie and OMC show. Want to thank everybody for being here. I am the original MC. He is Bernie. We are Mike and Chris, and we are thrilled to have you here today. Before we go anywhere, I want to throw it over to my partner CB. Talk to your people.
Yep. Hey, well, we're going to jump really right into it because we've already got some posts out on the Madness page. It's a mad world, and let's just hop right in and let's get OMC going.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't start by letting the bracketeers know, because I know that they're all wondering after the cliffhanger from the intro video. I did, in fact, do a little additional homework on OMC's chances of being victorious in this year's Madness Challenge. And unfortunately for all my adoring fans, it appears that even if my brackets had held true to form the rest of the way, I would have fallen just short. So I will not be repeating as champion this year. I just thought I'd get that out of the way. If you want, take a minute to dry your eyes and, calm down a little bit before we go on. But I did want to let you know. One other thing I should mention, and many of you watching this may recall, we had a little texting going on this morning where it was determined that Errol, right, is in fact our last place winner for this year. And this may be among the earliest of times that we've actually determined that.
Definitely.
But it should be noted that not only was he last place, he was next to last place as well. So he has the bottom two brackets, which is unheard of.
A dubious honor.
A dubious honor, yeah. Quite an accomplishment. There was some discussion about returning 2 bracket fees. That's not going to happen. But yeah, just wanted to make notice of that. CB, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the games from last night before we dive into the matchups coming?
Oh God, last night's. You know what? I'm going to actually feed that right off to you because okay. I was going to just jump right. I mean, we watched the games. It's just chaos, and so
madness, if you will. I actually think I think if you compare the two nights, the better of the two nights was certainly Thursday night, though, right?
Yes.
What do we have? We had the two number ones go. Or no, was that last night? Yeah, we had the two number ones go.
Yep.
Right. We had the Michigan State K-State game, which was fantastic. If I remember correctly, that was the only game this tournament that's actually gone to overtime.
Yes.
It was a classic. And who was it on the thread that had said that it was one of the best games they've ever seen?
Yeah, actually, that's funny you said that too, because just a quick note. Now, Craig Roloff said that, and then I kind of challenged him a little bit because we've seen not millions, we've seen hundreds of instant classic games. But yeah. Then I watched the highlights on ESPN and CBS and True TV, and I've got every single announcer saying this is one of the greatest games they've ever watched from a pure basketball standpoint from the opening tip-off. I actually sent him a text that night about 12 o'clock at night. Hope his wife doesn't mind. I know he's a sports guy, and I said, hey, I have to apologize to you. I look back at this game and I think about how it unfolded. And truth be told, I missed a little bit of the first half and kind of came in. And honestly, yeah, you have to put it up there as far as one of those games. And you have to look at Noel at the Garden with doing one of those MJ performances. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it was an instant classic. Truth be told, to turn around and say it was the best game you ever saw is very subjective.
Yes.
Put it this way, it's in the running, it's in the discussion, and that in and of itself.
Yeah, if you want to go down that road, that's almost like MJ versus
LeBron.
MJ to Kobe and to LeBron.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hate going down that road. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, then you're dealing with errors and stuff like that. But let's be honest, it was a great game. It was befitting of what the madness is and what we look for every year. Overtime, obviously hoping that we see, but more amazing action moving forward. Also, the Gonzaga UCLA game. We should touch on that for a moment because if you remember, CB, before the madness started, we were sort of talking about the different regions. I had pointed to that Gonzaga UCLA and said how that was one of my favorite games from last year.
Mm.
What did you think? You watched a bunch of that game. What did you think about this one?
I love that game. I
Matchup?
was anticipating that game all night. I loved the threads that we had for texting. A lot of them were hilarious, but I had the Zags originally. I took them out and put Houston, so I'm guilty of that. But I thought watching that game, Drew Timmy was carrying them. It looked a little shaky at halftime. I know we're going to talk about the reverse jinx at some point, but I put it in there. Turn out the light. The party's over. Dom Meredith and they came back, and then UCLA came back, and I love these games that go down to the buzzer. But I
Yeah.
I thought UCLA had it on that one. I really did.
Well, especially halfway through the game, they were up. They were up. They looked like they were manhandling them.
Yeah,
First half. It looked like a game of two
yeah.
different halves.
Up 13 at the half.
Um, yeah, crazy. What do
So
you make of what do you make of the whole what is this? The first ever Elite Eight without any number one seeds?
yes,
I
yes.
mean,
Love it.
going
I'm
into
actually
it.
gonna. I got something in parentheses here that I was gonna say as we ended the show. But here's what I thought about this whole thing: parity, transfer portal. We're gonna see this more
Yes.
often, and I think and I love it. I actually love it because I don't mind not seeing number ones. I think this is what makes the madness really, really interesting, besides being crazy fun. And then at the end, we're seeing so many people picking different teams. And there are a couple teams here that none of us in the Madness Challenge picked. That, there's two or three teams here that nobody had that obviously could win this thing.
Yeah. In the 18 years, I think we've done that. And I should have checked this before coming on, but wasn't quite sure where the discussion would go. But in the
Yeah,
18 years that we've been doing this challenge, I actually think, I don't think, I don't know that we've had any year where the champion hadn't selected the winner.
right.
I do know, and this is not meant to be funny, it's factual. The year that I finished in second place, that was the year of the Baylor Duke final.
Yeah,
Remember the one where the guy heaved up the ball
yeah,
half court and almost went in?
yeah.
If Baylor had won that game, I recall that challenge I would have won having not selected Baylor as the national champion, but I don't know if that's been done.
Right.
Um, all these things that you're talking about actually lends me to believe that as soon as this year that could
Mm.
actually happen, but it's much more likely now
Yep.
because of the parity and the fact that it makes the early round selections a lot more important as well. Those
Yeah.
points that you get
Yeah.
in
Yep.
terms of the challenge.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You brought up something that I don't think even you and I have spoken about because it's something relatively new. But you brought up the transfer portal. So I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but
Mm.
that's a new thing, a relatively new thing. Um, I love it, and I'll tell you that the main reason I love it is for the simple fact that if coaches can up and leave, right? Why can't the players?
They do it
So
all
for
the time.
example,
Do it all
yeah,
the
if
time.
you
Look at football, right?
yeah,
They don't even go to a bowl game, these coaches sometimes.
it's crazy. I know they leave like before the bowl games are over. And look, I understand it's free enterprise as a coach. You want to take the best opportunities, but you know, these kids, when you're recruiting them, you're selling them on you being, the guy.
Yeah.
And we've seen so many times where the coach comes in and recruits and then ends up leaving. So I think that the students should have an opportunity as well. And I think the transfer portal really lends itself to the parity that you're seeing in the league now. So absolutely love
And
it.
I think it puts more emphasis on coaching, because this coach now has to pretty much do a recipe of some new guys with maybe one or two of his favorite guys. And so he's got to put something together and put it together quick. So you got to get it done quicker, and
Definitely.
that's the way it works now. A lot of these guys, the regular season is they're tinkering, they're getting things ready, and then they're
Yeah.
getting to that conference tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yep.
let's chat on Miami Houston real quick. What'd you think
Yeah.
about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I thought Houston was in trouble from the first game on.
Just not to interrupt. Houston, that was who you selected, right, as national
Yeah, and,
champion?
I was worried about that from the first game on, from the first tip off, because they didn't look good. I don't even care about really the injury that they had in the beginning. I think it was Sasser, right?
Sasser, yeah. He's
Yeah,
back anyway.
they did not look good every game. They got down points every game. They You could just tell they had defensive breakdowns. I didn't like it. Didn't like my pick after that. Was wishing that I had kept it Gonzaga. So I had that feeling all along that, and you know what, Miami. I'll give this lead into you because the coach of Miami.
Jimmy
Go ahead.
Larinaga.
Yeah.
I love Jimmy Larinaga. So he's a guy that, for those that don't know, he's actually been a coach at 3 different schools, and with each of those schools, he made a difference to the programs. He coached in Bowling Green, he coached with George Mason, and now with Miami. He's been with each of those schools for a very long period of time, and he really put his mark on it. He's a professional coach, and the way I look at it is this: Miami, I think, what they were 5 seed here. I
Yeah.
think Miami may very well just be a better team, but they're certainly better coached. If you're in the locker room, I think of it this way: during halftime when you go to make adjustments and stuff like that, if you got a guy with the pedigree of Jimmy Larinaga talking to you, you're gonna have confidence anyway. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
think he's a great coach. I think and honestly, Miami just outplayed him, but
Yeah.
I think coaching has a lot to
Yeah.
do with it.
Just a quick hit too. I like to notice things or pick up things from announcers or try to pick up on stuff. I forget what locker room, but it was last night's game, and they showed the locker room and they showed the whiteboard. And I at some point I want to go back and try to find it. The whiteboard was fantastic to see. So if you're a basketball fan and you want to see what it's like in the locker room, you should see this wall-sized whiteboard that this coach had with so much information on it that I thought was actually amazing. So for another when we do break down the final four, I'm gonna
Yeah,
bring up a picture of that. And
that's awesome. Well, listen, truth be told, when it comes to Houston, you and I spoke before the tournament started. Houston was the chalk team that I really liked.
yeah,
My original brackets had them as the winner. I made a strategic choice in choosing the next team we'll talk about, and that's UConn. Um, as you guys know, I have a history with UConn. The one time I won the Madness tournament, our challenge was with UConn. I've mentioned it a few times. It was in Houston, so there was a lot of
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
parallels there. But I really liked the team. I did watch them a fair amount throughout the season, and I thought that they'd have a chance. And I thought that they were undervalued at a 4 seed. Um, you made some notes, Chris, on UConn. What do you have to say about this team?
yeah. And we can lead right from here into when we get into our a little bit more of our looking at the games coming up for today and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this about UConn. Officially achieved what no team in this year's tournament has done. Now they won every game by 15 points. They look better and better. Almost everybody is saying that. UConn just looks better and better. And honestly, based on last weekend, some of these paths with these teams losing, the path for some of these teams just got so much easier after these number one upsets. And who has the best path is what you're looking at now. And UConn with Gonzaga is going to be great. I got this written down as Drew Timmy versus Adama Sinogo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's going to be a pleasure to watch that game because Timmy, I heard this on another show the other day. They said, "Oh, he probably won't go to the NBA." And a guy came on, an analyst, and said, "No, you know what? Just because he doesn't shoot a three, which what everybody wants now. Everybody wants the tall guy to go outside and shoot threes now. But great footwork. He's a great passer. He's a great court person. He's a great court general. So that's his. And then
Yeah.
he can play in the NBA and make a decent, make his millions and
Role player.
role player. It's
Yeah.
perfect. So you got
Yeah.
that scenario going on, and I'm just. And then you look at Connecticut Zags. Here's a big one right here. This is the one that we should have known and looked at before the bracket started, before we put our brackets in. 3 Final Fours
Yeah.
in the last 10 years, last decade with these two teams. Come on. We should that, as
Ha,
soon as we saw that, we
ha,
should have been looking right
ha.
at working your bracket backwards from the Final
Yeah.
Four to 64.
And you sort of lead me into something I was thinking about too, in terms of filling out brackets. Now, I don't, I'm sure everybody has their own strategy, if you will. The way that one of the things that I've always looked at when trying to choose, maybe
Hmm.
between matchups, is I try to look at what have you done for me lately. In other words, what is the team doing in the 5 to 10 games leading up to the tournament?
Right.
Because oftentimes there's a momentum factor. And one of the interesting things about UConn that you just mentioned is having beaten every team that they've played so far by 15 or more. But if I seem to recall, in at least 2 of the games, it was a little sluggish early on.
Right.
So talk about momentum. UConn is able to, just continue to build off the momentum, and they end every game just on a high note, looking like one of the best teams in the country. I
Yes.
do think there's a legit, and look, I don't have a chance to win our challenge, but I would take a lot of I would take pride myself and anybody else that chose UConn as the champions if they go through and win this thing, because
Yep.
honestly, and there wasn't that many. There was maybe 4 other challengers that chose them. But
True.
yeah, as a 4 seed, you don't see it, but they're playing like one of the best teams in the country right
And
now.
and a little shout out for Nick Caesar, our resident wager expert.
Mm.
Uh, the
Yeah, we should get him
Huskies,
on. We should get him on to do a little wagering
the Huskies,
angle for us.
the Huskies are favored. They're the number one favorite now in Vegas. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So,
let's look ahead a little bit. We
oh,
have 2 games.
by the way, your Miami team, they're looking for their first Final Four.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so two games today, 2 games tomorrow. In case you're wondering, I do have the breakdown for the seeding or seeds in the Elite Eight. What we have left is we have 1, 2, we have 2 3s, we have a 4, we have 2 5s, a 6, and a 9. Who the hell saw that coming? Absolutely amazing. So today's matchups, you have Florida Atlantic, who I think everybody had making it to this point. I'm kidding, of course. Taking on K-State. CB, any thoughts on that?
Winner goes to their first Final Four.
Amazing, amazing.
First Final Four. And every article that I've been reading pretty much says the same thing. Do not call the Owls a Cinderella team. They don't want to be. They don't. They're not, they really will say that they are a legitimate contender. 34 wins in a season, holding teams to, what was it, 55 points here, a Tennessee team. Which, to be honest with you, Tennessee looked great early on in the season, but they pretty much fell apart the rest of the way. I was shocked that they got
Had some injury issues too.
Yep. And with FAU, I think that's what I got right now. I mean,
You think that you think a 9 seed could actually? I mean, I know, again, don't look at the seeds, right? They're not a Cinderella. Think they can beat K-State here?
no,
Your choice.
no,
No.
no.
Okay, so you're
Here's
K-State
a bracket thing about K-State. First of all, Big 12 school. Go look at the past of March Madness. You're gonna see some great Big 12 schools. Then, when I'm thinking about when I started my bracket, I start watching hoops about a month before, and then when I lead, and I'm sporadic, I'm picking my games, and then 1 or 2 weeks before I start, hammer it down late nights. Jen goes to bed. I'm watching games late night.
Yeah.
And what I started to get fixated
Also,
on.
her happiest time of year, by the way. Anyway, continue.
Yes. And what I started to fixate on was K-State, that they were being mentioned in a lot of ways. And honestly, I love this guy. I love Noel. He's just fantastic. But
Yeah.
they got a deep bench, and this is the best time for a deep bench, especially when you're playing those 4-minute games. I don't know what coach it was. It might have been Patino when he explained one day that this is basically, they play games in 4-minute increments.
Yep. I remember that.
So they got that bench. I think it's going to be a great game, but I think K-State's going to go on. This is a team that I had them penciled in to go deep, and I took them out with my famous Thursday morning tinkling.
Self-sabotage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I feel on that.
All right. And the other game for today is we actually touched on already, UConn versus Gonzaga. Yep. First of all, let me just say, I think should be a really good game.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not only pulling for, but do believe that UConn is the team to beat right now.
Me too.
So I obviously think they're going to win. What are your thoughts on that? That's a nice one. That's at 8:50 tonight. So we get to nice nightcap on a Saturday night.
Prime time. I'm all over the UConn train right now. I mean, I'm looking forward to a crazy text night, but I do feel like most of us are really rooting on UConn right now. And
hell yeah.
A lot of people not jumping on. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. Yep. And tomorrow, the matchup that everybody saw coming was Creighton versus San Diego State.
Yeah.
How many brackets have that one? I don't really, to be honest, I don't really have a feel. I don't know either of these teams all that well, so I'm gonna lean on you for that. You have any thoughts on that game? That's a
Yeah, yeah.
Texas versus FI.
I have been burned. I've taken San Diego State the last 2 years to go deep, and they didn't. And the reason that I took them each time is the same reason now, which I probably should have laid all my chips on the table with them. Not saying they're going to go Final Four, but now, now they are.
One win away.
They are an old, long team. These guys are about 24, 25 years old. I swear to God.
Yeah.
And they are long, and they have been together now for 3, 4 years. And they each time they went out early, each time they learned something, and now they're putting their defense on. And when I was watching them the other night, but you got Creighton. Creighton's is a team that's been here too. Both these teams have been here before. They know what the deal is. They're well coached. Great defense. I think this one very well again should come down to the buzzer.
And Creighton looked good last night.
Yep.
They looked good in that game. They were, I know that they were playing a team that many felt shouldn't be there, in a number 15 Princeton.
Yeah.
But Creighton, I don't know. Creighton looked good. I also saw a lot of adjustments. Now, I don't know if I watched a good amount of the Princeton Creighton game because I wasn't overly familiar with either team. But Princeton was doing a lot of those like double back cuts and stuff like that, and it was cool to see Creighton sort of adjust to it.
Yes.
I like to see adjustments that are easily, easy that you can see easily, because it really shows, man, that's the coaching is going on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that that's undervalued. So yeah, Creighton looks good. They're playing well.
I think they were 14-0 to start the season. I heard a lot. You heard a lot of chatter about them. Injuries, a general malaise, and then all of a sudden now they picked it up again.
Yeah, amazing. And then the last game for tomorrow, we sort of touched on a little bit. Number 5 Miami versus number 2 Texas.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll lead off personally. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I think Miami's gonna win that game. I think Miami's gonna win that game. Texas is playing well. But I watched a good amount of the Miami game, and I don't want to be sucked in because it's just one game, and obviously, new tip off, new game. I got a gut feeling on this one. I'm going with the gut. I think Miami's going to beat Texas.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know if you have any different thoughts on that.
Texas quietly just keeps rolling.
They do.
Quietly keep rolling. We don't hear anything. Nobody's talking about them. Nobody's talking about anybody really, but they just keep going. So
I don't have the lines in front of me. Any idea what the line on that game is?
I forget, but it's low. All the games have really low.
As it should be at this time of year, because I think seeds go out the window at this point in time.
Yeah,
if you've made it to this point, you're playing well. So that's awesome. Anyway, so so just in looking ahead, those are the 4 games upcoming. This is a bittersweet time right now in the madness, because we all know that the first 4 days are the freaking best time in sports, with all the action and all the different things to watch.
This is on the stage with Wild Card Weekend.
Yes. Oh, perfect comparison. Wild Card Weekend, one of the best weekends in sports. This, same thing. Now this week we're a little.
God forbid someone in your family has some sort of family event going on Wild Card Weekend or during March, Thursday through Sunday, and then.
Yeah, too bad. And let me tell you something. While we're on this, little public service announcement to any of you single people out there who are planning to get married in the future. Let me give you this little word of advice. If you ever consider putting your wedding on a Sunday that is the final round of the Masters, the Super Bowl, March Madness weekend, Wild Card Weekend, that is not acceptable. If you're a good sportsman, it's not acceptable. I don't want to hear it. And furthermore, if your significant other is pushing for it, she ain't the one for you. All right.
There you go.
Or D. Little public service announcement from OMC.
Unless it's a family dinner at your in-laws who actually are sports people, and the TV will be on. And
then it's a family affair. That's a family affair. I got no problem with that.
And I'll bring up Joan Shannon, our namesake for the challenge, who used to schedule Thanksgiving dinner around the Cowboys game. So,
JC. That's why she's the namesake of our challenge, because she knows the importance of what's important.
One last thing about Kansas State. Want to hear what I'm looking at? So Not only because this game is at the Garden, which I absolutely love for this bigger
Hmm.
game. They beat Baylor twice, Kansas at Kansas, no, Kansas at home, and they beat Texas on the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
early in the season kind of stuff. This was later on, a nice Saturday games, good, big crowd. So I looked at that. I think that's a biggie. So they've seen these teams before.
all right, so let me ask you this as we sort of close out here. You got 8 teams left.
Yeah.
Right now, forget about your bracket, forget about everything else. Take everything you know, look at those 8 teams, tell me who's winning it all. Your gut.
UConn.
UConn. Me too. Me too. Let's go Huskies. All right, guys. So little
But
housekeeping there.
but I do have a little sliver of Kansas State in me.
Okay. UConn with a Kansas State chaser is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
got you.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
all right. So guys, what we're gonna do then is obviously after this weekend, we will have our final four. When the final four is set, I will go to work and put my math hat on and I will get our scenarios together. To be perfectly honest, there might not be that much figuring to happen.
Yeah.
But it depends. We'll see who's left standing.
I did send out a little bit of a scenarios, but I based it on most points, which is what we really have to do because the remaining people all had, like I said, Mike Reed, Vinny Big Fish,
Mm-hmm.
is going, and we're almost at end of our time here. So we should
How,
probably
how much time we got?
9 minutes, so we're pretty good.
Okay, we're good. Yeah, we're good.
Yep. So we had Vinny, Big Fish, Kristen, Veronica, Annie Haynes, Rodney, and Tim. Really, I see as our potential
Yeah.
winners right there. So
Well, just to peel back the curtain a little bit on how I do this every year, once we get down to the final four teams, it's a combination of score and best score available,
yep.
right? And then basically seeing, and with only 4 teams, it's easier to figure because any more than that, the scenario outcomes, there's just too many.
Yes.
So I'll do that. We'll do a show around that,
Yep.
and then I think what we'll do is for those that are seriously in contention, we'll see how many of those people we can get on to come and do something with us.
Yes,
Before
and I
the
think
before the
I think
championship.
definitely we'll get Eddie Cook over here and maybe
Good.
their MC too to maybe
So
chat a little bit.
so completely by accident, you actually led me to one other thing I wanted to say before we sign off today, and that is I am calling out other MC, not in a bad way, not in a bad way. I want other MC on our show, and I have a very special reason why, which I am not going to divulge right now.
All right.
But other MC, if you are watching this video, I want you on our show. And if you would like, I'll explain to you before the show why I want you on the show, or I can just break it down for you
Oh
once
no,
over.
no, no. Sandbag them, sandbag them.
Yeah, it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad, but it is, I feel, important that you join us as soon as possible. So I'm
All
calling
right.
you out, other MC.
Yes, there we go. There we go. The
There we
first
go.
one. All right.
And so yeah, so we'll do that, and we'll prepare for the final, essentially the final weekend of the Madness tournament, and
Yeah.
till one exciting moment, and then that's a cut down. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also a little sad.
Yeah.
And then moving forward after that, you know, in terms of big sporting events, there's the Madness tournament coming up. Chris and I were talking about that. There's not to kind of get off on a tangent, but there is an awesome Netflix special called Full Swing, which I've been watching. I'm almost done with, and Chris turned me on to. It's awesome. It talks a lot about the live golf, which is something separate for the PGA. So we'll have some time to touch on that after the Madness tournament is over. Chris, you want to give a shout out to Greenberg real quick?
Yeah, I actually just heard about it, so I was a little late on my news there that he just had a surgery, I guess, a couple days ago. I think he's home now, heart surgery. So
Yeah.
got to give
Mike
credit.
Greenberg, one of the great ESPN sportscasters. I actually heard him last week say that he was going in for a procedure, and he's been out, this week. But I think we're all ESPN fans, Mike Greenberg. So I thought it was, we send a little shout out. He'll probably never hear it, but that's okay. That's okay. We like him anyway. We like him anyway. So CB, anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it. I think it's gonna be this is gonna be a really great Saturday night. We should also have some great games Sunday, and then everybody gets their rest until we go to the Final Four.
Final Four, awesome. So a couple of things for those that are on the text string. It's been awesome, chatting with you guys and gals over the weekend. Let's do more of that. We got some good games this weekend we can, be chatting on. It's interesting to see some of the banter back and forth on stuff that I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's funny anyway. So more of that. And then the other thing is just from a pure video standpoint, as I mentioned in the intro video, if you saw it, with all these videos we put out, I would love to see comments. So when you're watching the YouTube video, put your comments in on the video. Tell us what you like, don't like, make comments about what we spoke about. Like the video. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I think the best thing to do is we'll probably send out the links to the videos throughout the Madness tournament. Yep. And then after that, we won't bother you with them. But in the meantime, subscribe so that when we're doing shows after the Madness tournament, you can be notified when we have stuff coming up, because we're going to have guests and everything else. So anyway, last word to you before we close up. You good?
No, enjoy it. This is a great Madness this year.
They always enjoy the week. The Madness tournament's been amazing. Yeah. It's been amazing. Enjoy the games. It's been a pleasure hanging with you guys. And on that note, we're going to wrap up, and we will see you. We'll probably do something after as a lead up, as we said, to the Final Four, as well as the scenario outcome. So on that note, I'm going to go. This is OMC and Bernie, Mike and Chris. We are thrilled to be back in the box. Be well.